Let's take a look.
You know, Benjamin Netanyahu, if you look at polling in the United States, he is lost in the court of public opinion. I want you to take a look here at his net favorable rating. It is the lowest on record, according to Gallup, and they have records going all the way back since the 1990s. What are we talking about here? Well, in April of 2019, before, obviously, Israel in Gaza and the latest war that's been going on for a long time, Benjamin Netanyahu was on the positive side at plus 13 points. Look at where he is today, minus 23 points. My goodness gracious. You look at those under the age of 35, his net favorable rating at this point, get this, 53 points underwater. My God. And this, of course, has everything to do with Israel's actions in Gaza. The American people at this particular point not exactly liking what they're seeing, and they believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is in large part responsible.
So to that point, how do Americans feel about Israel's actions in Gaza right now?
Yeah, so let's take a look at this. I mean, net approval, Israel's military acts in Gaza. You go back to November of 2023, it was on the positive side of the ledger, plus 5 points. I bet if you even go back a little bit further, it'd be a little bit higher, but Gallup only measured in November of 2023 at plus 5 points. Look at here where we are in July of 2025. Way down there at minus 28 points. Among those under the age of 35, get this, a negative 73-point net approval rating. This is all being led. All the negative opinions towards Israel and their acts in Gaza are being led by the younger folks in the electorate. Negative 73 points on the net approval rating. You rarely ever see numbers that low, and that is charging up this number, 28 points underwater. The net approval rating of Israel's military acts in Gaza. The American people do not like what they're seeing and increasingly dislike what they're seeing.
That is really a shift. And this is leading to a number of other feelings when it comes to Israel in general. As we look at that, and also questions about Palestinians and whether to recognize the state of Palestine, that's back in the news because of Emmanuel Macron. Where do we stand on some of those questions?
Yeah, so, for the longest period of time, Americans have sympathized more with the Israelis than the Palestinians. That's still the case, but it's only by plus 5. You go back to May of 2024, it was plus 17. Right after October 7th, look at this, it was plus 48. In 2017, it was plus 39 points.
The sea change is good, but don't let the media elite have a pass, brother. When did I do that? They're still dropping the ball. They're still not far enough on this equation.
That is a dramatic drop. That is, what is that, a 43-point drop since the aftermath of October 7th. And again, under the age of 50, you look at those younger voters, it was plus 38 Israelis all the way back in 2017. You look now, it is plus 19 Palestinians. There has simply put been a complete change of opinion on this topic, and it has been at least driven in large part by how Americans view the military actions of Israel in Gaza.
It was fascinating to see those numbers, Harry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's crazy about this is that this attitude shift has taken place in spite of the delicate and, dare I say, desperate attempts of the media manufacturing consent for Israel, trying to contextualize Israel's violence, trying to make it seem like it's appropriate, like their response is appropriate, constantly bringing up October 7. I think to some extent this rhetorical shift is good and fine, but buried in this exchange is, I think, going to be the compromise position that seeks to get pro-genocide establishment Dems off a lesser charge, namely the one bad man theory of pinning this all on Netanyahu. That is what I think is going to happen as well. Benjamin Netanyahu has always been the off-ramp, and I think the Democrat position is eventually going to move towards the Benjamin Netanyahu who is single-handedly responsible for all of this. 2028 primary candidates pledging not to fund Israel's military offensively is kind of meaningless. Biden pledged the same thing about Saudi Arabia in 2020 and proceeded to sell them $300 million in weapons. Track record will matter, not vague and slippery pledges. I truly wish polls in Israel showed more dissent than they actually do, but they don't. This was not one bad man. It was almost the entirety of one country, a decent percent of the U.S. population and elites in both U.S. parties. Netanyahu didn't force any of these people to do anything. It's true. Adolf Hitler wasn't the only person responsible for the Holocaust, okay? There is such a cold detachment of the issue regarding these polls. I know they represented the shift, of course, but even if the shift didn't happen, media's role in justifying what we've seen is too glaring to ignore. I agree, but there's not anything you can do. The only thing we can do is keep up the pressure and to spread the word to the best of our ability. That is what Palestinians want out of us as well. That's it. What more can you do? The thing is, it's working. So there is no reason to give up now, because the attitude shift will create even more pressure. And once there's more pressure and it becomes an even more unavoidable issue, people have to change their attitudes on the political front, because now it's bad politics. Once it's bad politics and politicians actually create an even larger permission structure to say Israel, okay, that movement will only grow. Do you understand? We are already seeing the rats jump ship. Only 13% of New York City voters don't think Israel is committing a genocide. And for months, the New York Times would throw out Mamdani's position. Israel was committing a genocide like it was a fringe far-left neurosis. Not once mentioning is the position of the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, Doctors Without Borders, and most genocide scholars. People watching countless images of child maiming and killing for almost 2 years respond by being very angry at the party doing it. It must be hate and a craze, and not a normal response to feeling powerless in the face of unspeakable horrors paid with your tax money. Okay? It is not a craze. Olivia Reingold tries to claim that it's a craze because she writes for the Free Press. It's not a craze at all. It is not a fringe position at all. That's it. Anti-Israel fervor was a major factor behind the support for Zohran Mamdani. I gave out free ball as a ball knower. Okay? I gave it out for free. Nobody wanted to listen to it before the election, and people barely listened to it after the election. It's that simple. I don't know what else to say. Mamdani's answer to what country would you visit first as mayor was a watershed moment in the primary. His response, I plan to stay in New York, came after several of his colleagues one by one said Israel. Pundits cried foul, but normal people agree with Zohran. This is why all those dumbass liberals who spend a bunch of time talking about, like, is Hasan a more dangerous prospect for American future than Donald Trump or whatever, are focused on idiotic hypotheticals that try to present someone like myself as like a pure evil force in American politics, because they're deeply unserious people, because they can't talk about the fact that they've spent the last 22 months defending Israel's genocide and defending Israel's actions that are now starving children in broad daylight in a way that every American sees and understands and is responding negatively to. Okay? So stop paying attention to dumb losers who openly showcase their moral depravity, who openly showcase how deeply unserious they are, who are basically professionally wrong. And it's ironic because they're not even professionally wrong and getting paid to be wrong. They're just wrong. They're just professionally wrong, desperately holding on to this idea, this notion that, like, centrist liberalism is going to have a major staying power. That's it. If you want to keep being wrong, but have your opinion, if you want to not have your opinions be challenged, not have your worldview called into question, and if you don't want to actually critically examine why you believe certain things, yeah, go there. Be sedated by people who are wrong all the time. Okay? Be dulled by people who are wrong all the time. And then when an election comes in, when an election takes place, and then the reality that these guys present to you is very different than the outcome of an election, you will find yourself confused. You'll be like, "What? How could this have happened? How could this have ever happened?" Well, it's because those people left you astray. That's it. Some people choose that. Some people choose to listen to people who agree with them, who present them a false reality. But if you actually want to if you want to understand what's truly going on, sometimes you have to challenge your previous expectations, your previous opinions. You have to have those opinions be challenged. Okay? I'm biased, but I always care about the truth, and I will critically examine my own personal opinions as well. I will always look at what liberals are saying, what Republicans are saying. I will always examine what the narrative is from all sides of the American spectrum of politics. That is the reason why I am right more often than I am wrong.